Hey book lovers, Kayla here and welcome back to the Enchanted Library. I actually first wanted to say a huge thank you because we have reached over 200 subscribers on this channel and I'm just so happy and so grateful. I can't believe it. I'm really curious though because it was such a big jump in only really a span of a week. I want to know if you can comment down below how you found out about my channel and what type of videos you are looking for, because I'm always looking to switch things up. Like I said actually a few videos ago, I do have a lot of plans for this channel. Unfortunately, it's still a little too early on to do all of them, but I have been working really hard at figuring out different types of content that I would ideally really like to make. So if you guys have any requests or suggestions for types of videos that you like to see, definitely let me know. And yeah, like I said, tell me how you found out about the channel, because I was so mind-boggled every day. I just kept looking at my subscriber count and it just kept going up and it was just crazy. But I guess without further ado, let's get into this. So I am filming my May wrap-up about a week late, so unfortunately this is not going up until the second Saturday in June, but I did want to talk about this past month because May was such a good reading month for me, like definitely my best reading month yet this year. I ended up reading 7 books, but the first book that I read this month I read on the first day, and it was just before I had filmed my previous wrap-up, so I included it in that video, which was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. So I'm going to be going through the 6 other books that I read in May. Even though I'm super happy about having read 7 books in May, I'm even more ecstatic because I was in the biggest book slump at the start of May. Like, I had just read Caraval and I was super happy with that book, and then there was like almost a week where I thought I wasn't going to read any other books. So I had to go to some of my tried and true methods for getting over a book slump, and one of them really worked, and I'm so happy that I did. And I ended up picking up a memoir, and that is You're Never Weird on the Internet Almost by Felicia Day. So this is the first book that I read after Caraval, so there was about a 6-day span there. I just double checked on my Goodreads where I didn't really read anything, and I was really worried that I wouldn't read anything else. But yes, I picked up this memoir because Felicia Day is like my spirit animal. Her and Chris Hardwick are who I aspired to be when I was 25. Like, these two are so hardcore and so nerdy and awesome and so successful, and I just really liked being able to read some of her thoughts and opinions on her history, on what's going on in the world, how it is for women being in nerd culture, things like that. And I did pick this up again the day that it released, so I've been holding on to this book for a few years now. It's kind of funny because she talks about how she doesn't have kids and how she doesn't know how she'd be with kids, things like that, and now she has a daughter. So I'm a little bit behind on the times, but I felt like this is something that I really needed to read. Memoirs for me are so nice when I'm in a book slump, because especially when it's someone that I really care about and a person who I'm really interested in, it's just, they're quick reads and it just gets you over that slump. It gets you reading again, and I'm just really happy that I picked this up. Like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really recommend it if you are a woman nerd type person, or someone who's creative at all, or someone who feels like you're sort of on the outside, because that is how she grew up, and it's just amazing what she's come to do since then, and I just really enjoyed this book. The next book that I read in May is actually an ARC that comes out in August. I received it in my goodie pack from the HCC Frenzy Presents event, and I feel like I talk about that all the time, but I did get a bunch of books and I was really super excited about it. I'm still excited about it. I can't wait until the next one. But anyway, the book that I read is a contemporary, and it's a YA, and I'm not really a big contemporary YA fan just because it's kind of hard for me to explain, but it's kind of the matter of when you get contemporary YA, it's going to be high school, and I feel like a lot of the ideas and a lot of the themes of high school in YA literature are just so played out, and it's just not something that I enjoy about high school, so I don't really read those so much. But the reason that I got so excited about this book is because it takes place in a Catholic school, and I had always gone to Catholic school. I never knew any other type of school system until I got to college, and it's just, I needed to see what her thoughts were on Catholic school and how the politics of that world works. And the book that I got, or the book that I read, I should say, is Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. This book I did end up giving a 3 out of 5 stars, but considering it's a contemporary YA, that is pretty high. I might even bump it to like a 3.5. There were some typical tropes, things like that, but as I was reading it, I couldn't help but smile and laugh because there are so many thoughts that happen in this book from the characters that I remember thinking in high school and in elementary school, and it put it all on paper, which was awesome. If you don't know what this book is about, and you might not yet because it doesn't come out until August, but I really recommend reading it. It is about a boy named Michael whose family moves around a lot because of his father's job, and he ends up being enrolled in a private Catholic school. His first day of school, he is very on the outside. He doesn't believe in anything that they're teaching in relation to God and that sort of thing, so he's definitely not feeling it. Until that is, in one of his classes, there is a girl named Lucy who starts to sort of fire back at one of the teachers and questioning them, and he thinks that he's going to have someone who's on his side, and he is really excited about it. So he follows her to meet up with her and introduce himself, and it turns out that she actually wants to be a priest, which is pretty uncommon and unheard of in this world for a female priest. And he just instantly is intrigued by this person, and she introduces him to her group of outcasts called Heretics Anonymous. Throughout this book, there are many meetings of Heretics Anonymous, and the meetings aren't the biggest part of this story. I really emulated with Michael's relationship with his family. I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want spoilers for you guys, but Michael's relationship with his family, his relationship with the other students, how he is treated and how he treats people in this world is just such a cool take, and I don't think I've read anything like this before, which I guess is no surprise considering I shy away from this type of story, but I recommend it, especially if you attended Catholic school. And the best thing is it doesn't poke fun. It raises serious questions, it has good answers, and it teaches you empathy, it teaches you how to handle people who aren't of the same belief as you, and how to respect others' opinions. So I really, really enjoyed this book, and I really recommend it. The next book that I read in May was actually received from my Owl Crate, and I read it in a night, as I do with most books, but I was so excited to read this book because when I heard what the theme for the Owl Crate was, I thought instantly, this is what book it's going to be, and I'm so happy that I was right, because it was Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. And can I just say, I've said this in my last videos too, but I just love this cover. I'm so happy that they made the changes and took out the gold and added more silver. So excited, and I loved reading the little note from the author about the story and what she hopes for people to take away from it, things like that. I really appreciated it. If you aren't familiar with this book, oh man, pick it up, read it. It's a Viking story. It's got a badass female character. It's got 2 fighting clans, the Riki and the Ashka, and oh my god, it's so good. But to give you a little bit more of an idea of what it's about, it follows a character named Elin, and she is basically the princess of the Ashka clan, or Aska clan. And we open up on a big battle. The battles in here are bloody. Like, there is some intense fighting scenes, there's some tense injuries. It's just, I haven't read a story like this before, and I'm so happy that I did, because Elin encapsulates what a badass female character is, and I was so happy with this book. So yes, we open up on this massive battlefield, and Elin is getting her ass kind of whooped, and then all of a sudden she sees her brother. Now, this might not be too much of a surprise, but the sole fact that she saw her brother die 5 years ago, and now she sees him on the battlefield, but fighting for the other clan, the Riki, it's just, too many questions are popping up in her brain. So she takes it upon herself to actually uncover what exactly is going on. How is her brother alive? Or is he a spirit? Why is he fighting for the other side? Or is he a prisoner? What is happening? And then she finds herself beyond enemy lines. It's so insane. And throughout the entire story, you just see how fierce she is. You understand what honor means to her, what honor means to her clan, to her god, and how what her brother is doing and how what this other clan is doing can be so heartbreaking and just, oh, you just get a full understanding of what it means in this world, and I really appreciated that. And on top of the whole fact that the Riki and the Ashka are fighting, there's this whole other clan that is fighting both of them, and there's just so much happening in this story, and I really, really loved it. I mean, I just say, if you haven't read it yet, read it, because I need more Viking in my life. And the next book for May that I read was another book in Owl Crate because we were super lucky and got 2 books. This one is actually from an indie publisher who I found out is a booktuber as well. So talk about life goals. Anyway, the book is Catching Stars, and that's by Cayla Keenan. This is book 1 in a series, and I'm so excited that it is because I also gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I was pleasantly surprised by this story. I had no idea what to expect. I obviously hadn't heard of this book until I saw it in Owl Crate, and I read it the night after I read Sky in the Deep. And I remember reading this, I was just getting super excited. It's a non-stop whirlwind ride. I don't think there was a single time in the story where it lulled, which I really appreciated, and there were so many interlocking points of plot. And I loved both of the characters because you have Jayan and then you have Maddox, and it's a dual perspective, so you see things from her side and his side. I liked them both individually, and I liked them both when their plots sort of came together, and I really appreciate that when I can root for both characters and not just want to power through one of their POV chapters. I was genuinely invested in what was going on with these characters' lives. And if, like me, you hadn't heard of this book before, I'll tell you what it's about. Basically, in the world that this is set in, there are witches, and witches with different types of magic. So it's really not too far off from a typical fantasy story. However, instead of saying magic users or things like that, they do use the term witches, which I'm not 100% on board with because that immediately makes me think of like Halloween and pointy hats or Harry Potter, which, hey, love Harry Potter, but this is not that type of witch. Jayan's magic is super cool. There are so many questions that get brought up with that, and I can't wait until book 2 when we can expand it even more, because even when I was reading it, I had a lot of questions about the magic system, about the politics, because there's a lot going on, but as the story progressed and unfolded, it did answer a lot of my questions, but it also brought up some more in a really, really good way. So Jayan is a witch, and she is on exile from the kingdom because there is a king and there is a king's witch. Basically, politics happens, she runs away, she just wants to open up her own shop and do her own thing. Then we have Maddox, who, at the very start of the story, ends up murdering a whole bunch of people, but he had no control over it. But everybody else is thinking of him as a mass murderer, so he gets thrown in jail. And basically, all the time that Maddox is in jail, he just wants to figure out how to clear his name. So he takes it upon himself to go and search out the witch hunters. I'm starting to lose my voice. He goes in search of the witch hunters because he wants to kill whatever made him kill all those people, basically. So while Maddox is on his journey and Jayan is on her journey, because, you know, there's going to be a journey, there's things that happen, which I'm not going to get into because spoilers, they end up having to work together or threaten to kill each other. It's this whole thing, and I love it so much. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I've said that already, but I cannot wait for the next book, and I need it in my life right now, but I have no idea when it's coming out. Now, I guess after riding such a high of reading so many good books in a row, especially those last 2, I decided to throw caution into the wind and switch things up and go back to a genre which has always done me well, and that is historical fiction. There is a book that I picked up a while ago that I was super intrigued by. It kept following me around everywhere I went. I saw the cover and heard about the plot, things like that, and I had to pick it up. So it's been sitting on my TBR shelf for a while, and I decided, you know what, this month I'm going to read it. And that book is The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather O'Neill. Now, like I said, I was on such a high from reading so many amazing books that when I got to this book, I got so sad. I did give it a 2 out of 5 stars. I couldn't justify giving it a 1 star or half star or whatever because it did get a lot of emotions out of me, mainly anger and disgust, but this book has so many issues. So people who talk about this book talk about how lyrical it is, how fantastical it is, how it's such an inventive story, things like that, and almost fairy tale-esque in a way, but no, it's really not. This book is depressing. This book is frustrating. This book only gave me maybe a chapter of happy memories. Everything else was awful. I'm gonna give a trigger warning for rape in this book. Lots and lots of rape in this book, primarily child rape. I can't get over that, because even in the very first page, the first child rape happens, and I should have just stopped reading it then, because I just kept reading it thinking that it was going to get better. And the trials and tribulations that the two main characters have to deal with in this story are so disgusting. They're so upsetting. I don't want to think about this book anymore. I was so sad reading it. I wouldn't recommend it, I guess I have to say, unless you have a really sick sense of humor or something and you just want to read it to figure out why I'm so gutted about it. It ends, I'm not going to say how it ends exactly, but it ends on a way that's supposed to make you seem hopeful, but it just doesn't. It fails on so many counts, and I'm super sad because I thought that this was going to be such a good read, and the fact that I had read it after such a high of all those other books and then dealing with this, it just got me really sad. So yeah, 2 out of 5 stars. Wouldn't recommend, but yeah, I don't know why this book was so beloved when it first came out. I don't get it, but that's another book I read in May. So after that bummer of a book, the last book that I read in May, I was a lot more pleased with. I did give it a 3 to a 3.5 star rating, but it was the first in a genre that I had not read of before, and that is Siren fantasy YA. And the book is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, and this book is kind of like a mermaid retelling is how it's been described, but it's very dark, like super dark. And it kind of reminds me more along the lines of the Hans Christian Andersen's version of Little Mermaid. Funny side story, when I was younger, I really wanted the Little Mermaid, like the Disney version, obviously, like everybody does. And for Christmas or my birthday, I ended up opening a present, and it was the Little Mermaid, but it was not the Disney version, it was the Hans Christian Andersen version, and it kind of had like that anime kind of art style to it. So I watched it, and it traumatized me as a child. Like, if you have not watched that version of The Little Mermaid, or you don't know what it is, look it up if you're interested, because it's super dark, and it is not something that, like, how old was I? Like a 7-year-old should be watching. So this really reminded me of that time in my life, and it is also super dark and kind of gruesome, and the two main characters aren't necessarily good people, and they both know it, or good siren and good person, and they know it. They take that to their core. They understand they're not good people. They understand that they are doing things that not everybody would agree with, but they are living their lives as best as they can and as they want. So in a way, I really appreciate that about the characters, but it also made me like the book a little bit less because they aren't good people. They do have some really good qualities. There are some things that happen that really makes you like them even more, and I do like their interactions together, but yeah, so that's why it wasn't quite a 4 for me, just because of that reason, and it didn't necessarily blow me away, but I still really enjoyed the ride of reading it. I did, again, read it in a night because I was super invested, and I really recommend this one too. I guess saying that it's a Little Mermaid retelling might not be enough, so basically, to give you a little synopsis, it is about Princess Lyra, who is a siren, obviously in the underwater kingdom, and her whole life, she likes to kill princes. She likes to take their hearts and she likes to collect them and just look upon them all the time, but it also shows that she's fierce, and it also proves that she is worthy of being the next in line to be the queen, and that coincidentally is her mother's job right now, but her mother has some issues. I'm just gonna say that. And then there's Prince Elian, and he likes to kill sirens. Like, that's his thing. He's supposed to be all princely, but he prefers being a pirate, Jack Sparrow style, and going around killing sirens, until he comes across a woman drowning in the water. Now, you might be wondering, why could that happen? Well, it is because Princess Lyra was found to have killed one of her own, and as punishment her mother turns her into a human. And that is the worst thing that can happen to a siren, particularly this siren. And so these two people come together, and after obviously Ilian saves her, but it's not all fairy tales and rainbows and happiness for these two, let me tell ya. But a very fun read, a very fun ride, and I would recommend it if you're sort of interested in getting into this type of genre. Those are all of the books that I read in May. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are. And also, like I said at the top of the video, let me know how you found out about my channel and what type of videos you would like to see going forward in the future, because I am 6 months into this wild ride and I'm so excited to keep going. I love putting out videos, I love making the videos for you guys, and I just can't wait to see what more comes from it. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel and click that bell icon so then that way you're notified about any videos that I put out, because I do pop up bonus videos every once in a while, so if you don't want to miss those, the bell icon will help. I know that there's been a lot of changes undergoing with YouTube lately. I'm not happy with all of them, but it's still a fun platform to be a part of. And until next time, keep reading.